to another show with Extension, and we're going to learn so much today. And maybe some of you out there have wondered, you've got this beautiful home, and the home next to you is empty, and how can we pick our neighbors? Could we possibly figure out who's going to live there? And okay, we don't like you after 6 months, so you need to leave. Well, that would be really good. Wouldn't that be exciting if we could do something as wonderful as that and look at where we could be, with our neighbors? If we like them, we don't like them. So I have some really cool guests today. I have Sue Munyon with us from, she's our extension agent for 4-H.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, and we also have Debbie McManus, who's our 4-H program specialist for 4-H. And I guess you guys are going to tell us how we can have good neighbors or how we can get rid of the ones we don't really like. So I've kind of invited you to share some of these things because I know there's programming that 4-H does in regards to education with the kids at the schools and even working with some of our homeowners. And I know you've been working with neighbors and who could come into your neighborhood. And I know, Debbie, you've got a program that you actually do with some of the students, I guess 7th graders that you're working with. So tell us a little bit about maybe the program you're working with and how we might learn more about how we can keep neighbors in or keep neighbors out.
Sure. Thank you, Anita, and I'm really happy to be here this morning. I present a number of different educational programs to all St. Lucie County schools, public and private. And this program that we're going to be discussing today is teaching 7th graders about invasives coming into water sources around our area, mainly retention ponds, lakes, and the Indian River Lagoon. So the way I teach, I enjoy having it to be fun. I like a lot of feedback from the students. I like them to get excited about their learning, as I'm sure any teacher would. So I do role play in this program. So today I thought we would give our audience a chance to look into a 7th grade classroom.
Oh, a little
maybe.
Snippet, huh?
A little snippet. And I would like for you and Sue to be 2 different organisms looking to move into the Indian River Lagoon. So in this role play, I'm going to be a chef, maybe a restaurant owner, and I'm going to be a tourist. And Anita, I'd like for you to be an oyster,
Ooh.
And Sue, I would like for you to be the Asian green mussel. And the 2 of you are going to tell me what you can do for the Indian River Lagoon and me, depending on what I am. So let's start with sunglasses, because we know every tourist comes to Florida, the sun is bright, they're here for fresh seafood, the beach, the ocean, and warm weather, which we're not having too much of right now, but we still have sunshine.
But to them, it might be very warm.
Yes, it could be.
Yes.
So let's start with you, little oyster.
Okay. Well, I'm just like way cool. Because as a little oyster, I'm, for like about 2 weeks, I'm just kind of floating freely in the water, and so tourists can kind of interact with me when they go swimming in the water, but I'm looking for a really cool place to land, and I'm looking for, rocky oysters that might be already there, or something that I can grab a hold of and call my home, because once I grab, I stay. And then 2 years later, voila, I'm the adult that helps all of the lagoon and do so many wonderful things. But as a tourist, you would enjoy visiting with me and maybe even having a little taste now and then. Once I've matured into that 2 year, after the 2 years have gone by, I've eaten all these really cool things and made myself really delectable that you might want to consume me as a tourist.
Well, how do you contribute to the Indian River Lagoon? Say, like, I've heard a lot about pollution in the Indian River Lagoon. Are oysters good for that?
They are. Once I become an adult, after those 2 years of eating and doing all my stuff, I can actually filter the water, and I can filter 50 gallons a day. So that's quite impressive. As a little, even though I'm an adult, I'm still quite small, and I can do. If you have a bunch of me, that's a really good way to clean. And I filter out all the sediment that might be coming in, because we get a lot of rainfall here in Florida. It's not always as sunny as we say we is. Sometimes we get some rain, and sometimes that rain can carry things with that rain into the lagoon, and I have the ability to filter all that stuff out. All those sediments and even some things like nitrogen. When I eat the algae, I can filter all of those types of things out. So that's where I can help the lagoon.
I see. So tourists would like to go to the lagoon then, because we can feel comfortable that you're there, lots of your friends, oyster friends, and you're filtering 50 gallons of water a day.
Right. Pretty impressive.
Okay. Well, now I'm a chef restaurant owner.
And you want to eat me.
Little oyster, how can you help my business? Can we eat you?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And what else helps your business is by making sure that your business that may be on the water or maybe close to it, and you offer seafood, like myself, you might want to make sure that the water is always clean and non-polluted so that people are drawn to come to your restaurant to enjoy your seafood.
Yes. And I can fry you. Can I eat you raw?
Yeah, you can eat me raw, but only certain months of the year.
Okay.
Those are the ones that have the R's.
Thank you, oyster.
You're so welcome.
All right. Hi, little green mussel.
Hi.
So, as a chef and restaurant owner, I would like to know what you bring to the Indian River Lagoon and what you can offer to me.
Well, what the green mussel can bring to the Indian River Lagoon is a beautiful green color. We are very pretty to have, and it goes beautifully with the blue water of the Indian River Lagoon. We also, as green mussels, we travel well. We latch on to the hulls of boats. We're in the ballast of boats, so we can be transported to different ports and different harbors and in bays, and we are easily transported. So we are good at that. We also like to gather in groups. We like to gather in groups, and we like to go into culverts, and we like to go on rocky surfaces such as oyster beds, and we like to gather quickly on groups, as groups.
Oh.
So that is one of the benefits that we bring. I am also, as a green mussel, I am food for blue crabs and for sheep's head fish.
I see. So you do benefit the lagoon in some way. So can I eat you?
Well, you know, I have been found in different countries to have toxins and illness-type planktons in my system. So I don't think you want to eat a green mussel.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the tourist now to speak with you. So, little Asian green mussel, I heard you say that you could travel and live on rocky, hard surfaces. I do believe that the oyster has a hard, rough surface. Would you be able to live with the oysters?
I would be able to live on the oyster beds. Yes, I
the
would.
oyster bed. And are you compatible with oysters? Would y'all get
Well,
along?
You know, I'm pretty much dominant, so I would take over because I can reproduce very quickly. So an oyster bed would quickly become a green mussel bed.
I see. And can you filter the water?
Well, I do filter. I cannot filter as much as an oyster.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, I think as a tourist and as a chef and restaurant owner that the oyster provides so much more for the Indian River Lagoon and for me as a tourist and also for the chef and restaurant owner. So I would really like to invite you to move into the Indian River Lagoon and please multiply and spread yourself and filter.
Yeah.
And little green mussel, you're out. So I just wanted to let you know that this is just a sampling of what we do. I really enjoy hearing the kids and their arguments as why they want to move into a habitat.
Yeah, I mean, she was really pretty green.
She was.
I am a pretty green.
Yes.
That's a really nice thing.
Right. And so our panel of students can be, I have different hats, a politician, a fisherman, a chef, a tourist, all different people on the panel that has their own reasons for allowing an organism to move into a habitat. And so the organism really has to convince the student panel that they're good for that habitat. So it's interesting to find out, she gave such a good argument that sometimes our students consider allowing invasives into a habitat. It opens up that door for me to go even in more depth to explain to them what invasives bring to a habitat from that point forward. And in the long run, they may be pretty now, but is it something you really want for the future? It also helps me explain to them how humans contribute to bringing in invasives, something they never even thought about. We just look out at the lagoon and we think, oh, isn't that pretty? And everything lives there is supposed to be there. And that certainly is not the case.
Well,
Yeah.
in most cases, the students learn, and this is kind of the whole point of the program, is that invasives end up displacing our native species of whatever that happens to be, a plant or an animal. So in this case, the green mussel would grow on the oyster bed and displace the oysters.
Exactly.
So that is a realization that they come to that's really exciting, that they put two and two together and they start to correlate, well, the invasives have the bad consequence to what's going on in the environment.
Well, I think the good example that you've got with them so that they can see is out there on the islands when they go, and if they show a picture of it or if they've been out there, they see the Australian pines that are not native and how they've just completely taken over those little barrier islands and different places.
Exactly.
And they don't always provide the habitat that we need, because that's, oysters can help with erosion and keep habitat and so many things in there. And then mussels, being not native here, probably aren't going to do some of those great things that our native plants or animals do.
Well, this whole program is really geared toward critical thinking for students and having them come through the problem-solving process of sometimes they do make bad choices, so what are the consequences? And they have to discover those for themselves. So instead of us coming in and saying green mussels are bad for the environment, they're discovering that on their own by using the facts that oysters bring and that green mussels bring and the result of that. So it's pretty exciting, and it's very
really a
interactive.
fun way to do it, isn't it? Yeah,
It is. I really enjoy this program.
I bet they do too. They probably learn
They
quite
do.
a bit. And do you evaluate how much they've learned?
Yes, we do a pre-test about what they know about invasives and even what they know about the lagoon. And then after they've gone through a week-long training, starting with a video and their teacher, then I come in and do the role play, and then we do a post-test. And the evaluations are coming back great. They are learning.
Good. Good. Well, that's our future. If they understand what's important for us to conserve as well as keep out. So it would be really nice if we could do the same thing with some of our neighbors that we have. Whether they be plant neighbors or whether they be people neighbors.
That's right.
It would be really nice to be able to say, you're in and you're out, or just like that. Well, Debbie, I know you do some other programs in the schools and some of them that relate to the lagoon as well. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of those other programs that you're working on.
Sure. So, unbelievably, and Sue knows this because before I started, Sue had gone into some of the programs and gotten some evaluations. And we start with third grade because a lot of students, even though they live right here on the Treasure Coast in St. Lucie County, they have either not ever heard of the Indian River Lagoon or they don't know where it is. Like, how does it pertain to them? If they can't see it, it doesn't pertain to them.
Right.
So I start with a third grade program of what's in the water. And we talk about where the lagoon is located, and it's a light bulb because everybody here has been to the beach at one time or another. They didn't realize getting to the beach, when you go over the bridge, the water below the bridge is the Indian River Lagoon. So they're like, oh, well, I know where that is. And so then we talk about what lives there. And we figure that if we can get children at a young age to connect with something that lives in the lagoon, as they get older, every year they're going to learn a new component about the Indian River Lagoon. And we want them to get a good basis in elementary school so as they get older, they become good stewards in taking care of the lagoon going forward in the future. So third grade is where we start. Then fourth grade is sharks of the Indian River Lagoon.
That's probably popular.
Very popular.
Yeah, I bet it
I mean,
is.
who doesn't want to know about sharks?
Yep.
So we
Shark Week, shark everything.
we dispel a few myths.
Yeah.
I try to help them get over their fear. They need to learn that that is the shark's habitat, but you don't have to fear going in the lagoon. So we talk about sharks. And then in a fifth grade, it's the lagoon and you. And we use this time to go in, do a complete presentation, an overall view of everything they've learned third and fourth grade, and then add to that. And then we end that presentation with a field trip to the Fort Pierce Inlet and the St. Lucie County Aquarium. And fifth grade, I mean, they got it. By the time we get there, they know seagrasses. They know what lives there. They know mangroves. Like, they've got it by the fifth grade.
This is where you go seining?
This is where we go seining, yes. And 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we're on to more in-depth Indian River Lagoon programming. It's working out really well. It's popular programs that the teachers are asking for year after year. In fact, I'm just actually a presenter of these programs. I get the kids excited about the Indian River Lagoon, then the teacher continues on with the programming. So it's a nice partnership with St. Lucie County Schools. It's working, and you can see that the kids are learning.
That's great. That's really great. Well, Sue, I know you have other educational programs for 4-H, and I believe you have the farm. So tell us a little bit about that, and I think you have an event coming up even.
We do. We have the St. Lucie County 4-H farm, and it's out west of town off of Pecos Road. And we have actually animals that people come to see, and we bring groups of school children. And we are aiming it towards pre-K through 2nd grade, but we also have middle school students that come out also, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But our elementary school students that come out, we teach them about where their food comes from. We have examples of a variety of farm animals, and we also have hydroponic gardens and square foot gardens. So when they get to come to the farm, they get to see where their food comes from. A lot of times we will ask the students, where do you think your food comes from? And of course their response is Publix or Walmart or Winn-Dixie.
Yeah,
That's
a
where,
grocery store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because generations, we're so far removed from the farm setting that students do not identify with actual farm products coming from the ground, coming from the land. So that's what we try to get them to identify with. So along the way, we have chickens and ducks, turkeys, and we have a cow and goats, sheep, horses, and a pig. And they get to see all these animals, and they get to learn why they're important to people, why these animals are important, and what actually they give us to provide food or byproducts or whatever it is that they provide. In the square foot gardens and in the hydroponics, we have, of course, vegetables that grow in there. And when we pull a carrot up from the ground, their expressions are amazing. They cannot believe that that's really where
carrots come from,
and that we're actually going to eat. You can eat that. So that is a lot of fun. And we talk about herbs and different ways of growing, and we talk about water quality, and we talk about saving space and saving water as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for elementary age students to get hands-on learning. It's really nice to see pictures in a book, but when you actually have a face-to-face contact with a cow,
an animal,
that makes an impression.
Sure it does.
Yeah, it does. So we also use the farm as an opportunity for middle school students who are in the vet prep program to get their hands-on animals that they certainly would not normally get a chance to handle. They are preparing, these middle school students are preparing to go into the vet tech program that Westwood offers, Westwood High School. So we're preparing them by giving them hands-on activities so that they can actually take a horse's temperature and check their vitals and learn the reproduction of goats and sheep, and you know how they have 4 stomachs as compared to 1 stomach. And they actually get to work with the animals. That is an opportunity that they would not be able to have right there in a classroom. So a lot of hands-on, that's what 4-H is all about, hands-on learning experiences.
Very cool. Yeah, and then you have an event coming up in March?
We do. March 19th, we have, generally speaking, we have farm field trips, and they're usually for classrooms. And we'll do a grade level at a time. But we have gotten a lot of response that the general public would like to just bring their children out to the farm. So we are having an open to the public farm day on March 19th, and that begins at 9 a.m. till noon, and we will be giving tours, and we'll be talking about the animals. The kids can get their hands on the animals, and we can talk about all kinds of neat things about where their food comes from.
That's really cool.
So that's March 19th on a Saturday.
Wow, very nice. So that's for all of, I mean, some of the kids may want to come back again that have already been there.
Absolutely, we would
they get
love
to bring
that.
their parents.
We
'cause
would love
sometimes
that.
we all know that kids teach their parents very well, whether it's turning the water off while you're brushing your teeth or not to pollute the lagoon.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And that's one thing that I left out. It's another component of each of these programs. I end the program with talking about personal pollution and how is pollution getting into the Indian River Lagoon. And a lot of children don't relate. Well, I don't live there, so I'm not contributing to it. And so every program, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we end the program with how can you help control the amount of pollution getting into the lagoon. And so that's eye-opening also, because they didn't realize if I live west of town, I don't have anything to do with the lagoon. So we point out, yes, you do.
Yeah. And do you give them examples of what that means?
Sure. Oh, sure. Like oil and gasoline on our city roads, fertilizer on their personal yards. I use the example, how many of you have been in the back seat of your car and you think nobody's looking and you just throw out a little candy wrapper out the window? And almost every child, teacher, myself included, have thrown out a gum wrapper. And I'm like, so do you think that this one little piece of paper is going to hurt the environment if it makes its way to the lagoon? And they're all like, well, of course not. And I'm like, but if you multiply it by 25 students, your teacher and I, that little piece of paper now becomes this big. Could this hurt the environment? And they're like, oh. Yeah. So I said, it's all about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our pollution. And if you just take care of yourself, let everybody else take care of themselves, it'll go a long way to helping the pollution that we're contributing in the lagoon. It'll go a long way to helping clear that up.
It's kind of like, do you have a dog? Can you pick up after your dog?
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think of that, especially if they have a fenced-in yard.
Yes, dog waste.
Right.
Big problem.
Right. Yeah, well, we have obviously wildlife waste. We can't do a whole lot with that one, but we can take care of our animals that we have as pets. Yeah.
One of the things that Debbie tries to reinforce into children so that they can share it with their families is that all of St. Lucie County is a watershed area. All the water that is the rain that's on a school parking lot ends up in the Indian River Lagoon. So everyone is in a watershed area. So whether you can see the Indian River Lagoon from your house window or you can't, the water from your yard or your parking lot or your driveway ends up in the lagoon. So we're trying to get that through to the students so that they share that with their families.
Right. So they can say, nope, don't throw that out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't care whether your mom's looking or not.
Right.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't throw that out the window. Yeah. That's it.
And for the record, I don't do that anymore. That was when I was a kid.
That was when you were very young and didn't know any better,
young.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. You hadn't been taught by someone like yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's that's a good point. A lot of things that we learn from others, and we always learn better from others instead of our parents. That seems to be the case always. But there's lots of things like that. So any new ideas you've got for new programs that you've got coming? Any new 4-H ideas that you got? I mean, there's lots of things in the community that have needs, obviously. So is there any other thoughts that you had for other programs? We've worked in the lagoon. Are there other things missing? Are people telling you there's still some things missing?
There are things missing, and what we would like to do is get an adult component. We've already started with the lagoon education, and Debbie's already started working on that. Homeowners associations, environmental groups, or Debbie just did a program with Master Naturalists and with Master Gardeners, so we would like to expand that as well. We are youth focused because we're 4-H, but that doesn't mean we can't have an adult component, because the things that we're teaching, we're finding that the majority of the adults don't know either. So that's
very true.
We're
and
finding a niche in that area.
They all have children or grandchildren.
They do.
Yeah, so that's a great way to spread that word. That's really a good idea to communicate more freely with that. And when we talk about some of the invasives, I know when we talk about the ones that are in the lagoon, you kind of start out with a different village and then move it into the lagoon. And we've talked about the Australian pine. Is there other invasives that you could kind of share with us that are in the lagoon right now?
Well, some right off the top of your head are the red ants. Like, those are invasives and they're everywhere.
Oh, the red imported fire ant.
Yes, yes.
Such a lovely
They're
creature.
Oh, horrible.
They do eat other insects, though.
Yeah. Yes.
Just to give them a good side. There.
Right. I guess just like she give her good side, the little green mussel is pretty.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but doesn't mean that they're good for us.
Right.
We have the lionfish. I think
Oh,
a lot
right.
of people know that's
Yeah.
an invasive and it's killing our reefs. So that's a big problem. The Australian pine that you mentioned
Oh,
that
right.
takes over the spoil islands and chokes out the mangroves. And mangroves are such an important habitat on the Indian River Lagoon. They're the ones that help prevent erosion, and they
Right.
offer habitat for small marine life.
Right.
If those are gone, Australian pine can't offer the same.
No, they don't. In
Yeah.
fact, they blow over very, very easily,
Very
from my
easily.
understanding. Very shallow rooted.
Yes, and their root system does not reach into the water for
Right.
marine life to be able to hide in.
Like the mangroves do.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good point. Well, there is a need to identify those invasives, and I think you're doing a good job by teaching these children that. But I think you're right. We could reach out to some of these adults and help them understand, because a lot of the ones that master gardeners and others work with, they think if they're working in their landscape and they've got some plants, it's kind of like throwing something out the window. They throw it into the adjacent lot. So then
Exactly. Right.
those plants that are not native are now growing into an area and maybe forcing some of those plants out. So it's important to know what's invasive and how to take care of things that we might consider pollution or actually things that might get into our environment.
Right.
Well, thank you both very much for joining us today. And please tune in next time for another adventure in Extension.